want you to think about, maybe you've found yourself one time saying, if you really know me, you would... something, I'm not sure. One thing I probably would say to the students I teach at school, if you really know me, you would know I go for the Gold Coast Suns and Aussie rules. So maybe turn to the person next to you and see if you can chat about what you reckon is something you would say to somebody. If you really knew me, you would know this. Can you chat to the person next to you and see if you can talk about what that thing could possibly be? We actually see Jesus here saying something. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. And if we see closely, verse 8, Philip, one of these guys following Jesus around, he continues on and says, show us the Father, and that'll be enough for us. Well, in this ancient text, that statement Philip says, show us the Father and that will be enough for us. Maybe you've thought yourself, or you've had some friends who say, if only God would just show himself. If God would just show himself to me in this world, then I would believe. 2,000 years ago, here's Philip, and he's saying the same thing. Show us the Father and that'll be enough. If you show us the Father, I'll totally believe in you. If we look at the end of verse 9 though, Jesus claims that if we have seen him, so if we've seen Jesus, we see the Father. So we then see even earlier in verse 5, Thomas here, and they say, Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way? So they had some understanding of who this Jesus guy is, as we've been looking at. Jesus done some pretty powerful, miraculous or outrageous acts. But they don't know his endpoint. They don't know where he is going. And they do ask, where are you going, Jesus? And what is the way? Jesus in verse 6 though answers both of these questions at once. And he says he's going to be with the Father, since he says, no one comes to the Father except through me. So where Jesus is going? So he's going to be with the Father. But the way? Jesus also says he's the way. How can this be? That's outrageous. If you ask for directions, rarely does someone say, oh, I am the way. They might say, oh, come follow me, or I'll point you in the right direction, or if you go on Google Maps. But here's Jesus saying, I am the way. That's outrageous. It's quite lunacy in some regards. Not really a great example of leadership. I guess if that's what Jesus is saying, that he is himself the way, we have to work out, well, what's that mean, and is that legit? So hopefully we've looked a little bit at Jesus, and we'll maybe come to a bit more of a clearer picture of what that is. Stop and think about God. Maybe that's something even you're not sure of. But let's think about, if there is a God, what that God is like. That God is just and perfect, creator of the world, and also as a Father who's created humans out of an overflow of his love and brilliance to create humans to know and enjoy him and walk with him. God is the giver of life and also gives love. And he's created humans to live forever in a world with no suffering, no pain, and no evil. Humans are God's masterpiece of creation. But we've seen this week, though, unfortunately, that the first humans did decide to ignore, avoid, and ultimately reject God, choosing to live life as if they were God. They were saying, forget you, God, I believe I can find my sense of happiness, my identity in other things, good things, achievements, recognition from friends, approval. They're not necessarily bad things, but all of a sudden, they were the things, instead of the God who'd given us life and given us love, we substituted those instead. And we've seen, in rejecting the life and love God has promised, that's sin. That is rebelling against God. And if he is perfect, and he has created us, and he is just, and loving, he is rightfully angry that his masterpiece of creation has rejected him. That means we no longer deserve to walk and live amongst this perfect God. So what does he do? Well, he separates himself from humans. And he allows the outcomes of the loving giver of life being removed, leading to a world of destruction, pain, suffering. Humans are now lost, confused, and there's no way out. In a sense, we're in darkness. No directions will get us back to the Father. And it seems then that all humans by default now live facing not only suffering, but an eventual physical death and a coming judgment of anger and wrath from God, the judge and creator, saying we can no longer spend forever living with this good Father that we have rejected. We receive exactly what we deserve if God is our creator. Think about it. If somebody commits a crime, such as stealing a bike from a shop, the crime has to be paid for. But the person who stole the bike might say to the shop owner, "Look, I used that bike to get to school. I used it for a good cause. Come on, it's not that bad. So I should be let off." Or maybe they'll say, "Look, I only stole the cheapest bike. You know, it wasn't that expensive." Maybe they say, "I've walked past your shop so many times walking to school. I only stole the bike once. I didn't steal it for the other 200 days of school. It's only one time. Come on." Maybe they realise, well, okay, it's 1 out of 200 times, but yeah, that's wrong. So I'm going to go to that bike shop and I'm going to clean up the bike, and all the other bikes and bike store as well. Do you see a problem though? Well, the problem is, sure, there might be nice things to do. The bike needs to be paid for though. The bike needs to be paid for. Nothing else that can be done can pay for the bike that's been stolen by you. No good act or excuse will cover it up. The time for the crime needs to be done. And that's only a bike. It's no relationship with the Creator, the giver of life, and the source of love. The time for our crime is much worse. We've rejected the giver of love and the giver of life itself. I think it makes sense then that, as Herman explored last night, that life will end, that we deserve to face a physical death. We've rejected the giver of life. At some point, we don't deserve to have life forever. We deserve the full hit of our deserved anger and rejection from God, leading us to experiencing ultimate rejection forever, which, as many people describe, is hell. And there's no way to avoid this. Yet, Jesus says, He is the way to the Father. Really? How? We saw one of the first nights that Jesus' nickname is the Word. Jesus became God in the world, God with skin on. He left the Father, obeying Him, trusting Him, coming into a world experiencing suffering, rejection from friends and family. He didn't even fit in with the religious people. He offered promises of satisfaction, being the bread of life. He healed people, he had compassion on people, he wept for people. He gave promises of resurrection. But he also told us hard truths about all of us being in darkness and being lost. Not only did he do those things, but being fully human, he lived the perfect life we should have lived. He lived the perfect life we should have lived, trusting God, living for Him. He did no wrong. Yet, He willingly committed Himself to take what we deserve upon Himself. He experienced the rejection, the anger that we deserve from the Father upon Himself. when he experienced dying on the cross. So Jesus lived the life we should have lived, and he died the death that we deserve to pay. So that we now have the opportunity to be forgiven and receive what he deserves. What did Jesus deserve? He deserved a complete life of feeling accepted, being able to walk with the Father and experience life forever. Jesus experienced what we deserve, so that now we can experience and receive what Jesus deserves. We have now an opportunity to be forgiven and have a way to God again. But like the lost beanie, will we expose ourselves to this person to admit that we were wrong about ourselves, wrong about Jesus, and wrong about a whole way of living? Do we see that the very same person who reveals us, exposes us, and shows our wrong, does the very thing we cannot do as well? He brings us access to God. How outrageous! The perfect, yet personal, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, the way. Do you see how costly it was for him? Can you imagine him weighing up, coming into a world of suffering, facing rejection, that the promises he offered are mocked, the truths and wisdom he shares anger people? He faces a trial where he's accused of lying about God. And ultimately, this sends him to his death. And this death is saved for the worst criminals. And he did all this to save those very people. I mean, what would make a being do such an outrageous act? Well, it's definitely an outrageous love Jesus shows. But hang on for a moment. If we think about it, if somebody said, hey, I really love you, and they jumped in front of a bus to demonstrate their love for you, that's just stupid, really. I mean, if they really loved you, they'd want to spend time with you. They want to demonstrate their love like that. It wouldn't really achieve anything at all. So how can Jesus, claiming to die for humans, for us, for me, how on earth is that loving? That's stupid. If it finishes here with Jesus dying. I mean, how would people know if Jesus really took what we deserved upon himself? How would we know if Jesus really is God? Could we know that the Father is trustworthy? Could we know that death could be one day overcome? Would we know if Jesus had even lived a perfect life? Well, like any being who does the time for the crime, once they've done the time for the crime, they can go free. And that is what Jesus did. He did the time for our crime, the wrongs we have done. And Jesus, after 3 days, was raised back to life again forever. Unlike Lazarus, when Jesus brought Lazarus back to life, Lazarus still had to die again. But Jesus comes back to life to live forever. This is outrageous. Why? Well, we are assured that Jesus did live a perfect life. Otherwise, he would have had to stay dead because he would have been paying for the wrongs he'd done. Remember, God the Creator has given us life. So if we've done wrong, the punishment we deserve is to not live forever. We can now therefore know he's also paid for our wrong. No more pain needs to be done by us. That's why he's the author and perfecter of our faith. Also, Jesus is God. Because only God can live a perfect life. His promises of being the bread of life are reliable and trustworthy. The resurrection is true. And there's no better evidence than Jesus himself. That Jesus came back to life, we can know that humans have a possibility to live forever and live forever with God. That is what really matters. Jesus also is saying he satisfies our longings for acceptance, to feel significant, to feel secure, because we see how outrageously he loves us. What an outrageous act of love. If we really know Jesus, we will see the Father's heart and know the Father more clearly here at the cross and Him coming back to life. God has shown Himself. God has revealed Himself. That question that Philip asked, and you may consider, and many people I've met ask, why doesn't God just reveal Himself, show Himself in the world? Jesus has. It has happened. And He's shown Himself in all His brilliance because He also has provided a way to bring us back to God. Fix your eyes on Jesus for a moment. Do you see how He endured the cross for you? The shame He experienced? His commitment to you? All for the hope of returning us to the Father and providing a way for us to experience joy and love to be shared with the Father in Jesus? Here, an outrageous man makes an outrageous claim, an act of love. I mean, when was the last time your friends committed to you like Jesus? When was the last time your friend's promise actually came through? How did it go last time you trusted someone before you really knew their intentions or motives? Jesus has committed way more, given much greater promises and given much greater assurance than anyone else in this world has. He was an outrageous man who makes outrageous claims, and the ultimate act He performed wasn't just to show His love, but was to achieve something as well. The disciples at the start asked Jesus, where was He going and what was the way? Jesus is going to be with the Father, and Jesus said He is the way. Where is your life going? And what's your way? Will you trust yourself to Jesus? Will you trust yourself to Jesus tonight, maybe? Jesus, who is the only way, the truth, and the life forever. I highly encourage you to consider and wrestle with this. Will you trust yourself to Jesus, this man who is the only way, the truth, and the life forever?